Welcome back to the 11th Celt. My name is Patrick Quinn. I am the 11th Celt, and I'm also an uncertified industrial designer. Today's project is going to be the Firewood Sling. It's real simple. I hadn't done one of these since probably over 25 years ago, so I decided it'd probably be a good idea to see how they were being made these days. Found a pretty good tutorial that was real simple and very short, and I followed it almost to the letter. I mean, I got the same materials that they used. The equipment I have is probably as good, if not a little bit better than what they were using, but I wasn't entirely happy with it. And let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, zooming in on this, you can see how the outside edge is not uniform. You know, it's the same thickness, but the corner comes in too far, and there's a lot of bunched up material underneath the corners there. This also causes the stitching to skip a little bit. And yeah, it'll hold, but like I said, it's aesthetically it's substandard. Yeah, it's probably just my ego or whatever, but you know, I think the kids would have colloquially called this hot garbage, and this displeases me. So what I did was I built another one. So here's the other one I did, and as you can see, compared to the aforementioned hot garbage, this one is much more uniform. It is clean, and it is aesthetically pleasing. Notice the lines. Okay, now let's look at the tools that we're going to be using for this thing. To begin with, I'm going to use this Creative Grid straight edge block for marking out the spacing where the webbing is going to go onto the piece of fabric. Also going to use a couple of different straight edges. I'm going to have my bigger ones right here for doing the long axis. The short one I'm going to use for the corner work. And also I'm going to incorporate something that has nothing to do with textile work or apparel or anything. This is a machinist protractor. This will allow me to plot the angles that I'm going to need for the mitered corners. I found that on Amazon for about 10, 11 bucks. If you can't get a hold of one of those, you can go to Hobby Lobby or Michael's, some other craft store, or even just the grocery store with the aisle with all the kids' school supplies and get one of these. This is just your standard school protractor. And if need be, you can either use a straight edge with the protractor, or you can do what we used to do in the old days, very much like our map protractors for land navigation. Take a piece of 550 gut, put a knot on one end, run it through your apex, and then you just sit there and figure out your azimuth or your angle, and then you go ahead and mark it. Now this would be good for something like, say, if you still got a much bigger piece of fabric than I've already got on hand, and you have the room to extrapolate those lines out. But since I've already cut my piece out, this is where this guy is really going to come in handy, because there is no having to try to make a mark beyond the plastic. I can make the marks right there on the spot. Okay, this right here is a bone folder. You can find these at any craft store, art store. This is really good for pressing down the hem as you're folding the material in. You're obviously going to need to mark your fabric, so I would recommend getting a tailor's chalk. They come in different shapes or whatever, and also different colors. Personally, I've kind of graduated up to using a mechanical pencil version of a tailor's chalk. You'll probably be able to find this on Amazon as well. Obviously, you're going to need to hold the webbing to the fabric at one point, so you're going to need pins of some kind. These are upholstery pins. I've used these for making all kinds of stuff. Okay, you're obviously going to need to cut your fabric at one point, so I have usually 3 different kinds of scissors on hand. If I'm cutting out heavy material or off of a big piece of fabric, I'll start with these big shears right here. These are going to be the standard work scissors. And then for cleanup work or dressing up your piece, and especially for getting your piece off the sewing machine, I use these little embroidery snips. These are really nice to have, and they work really well around the machine as opposed to a bigger set of scissors. Now, to plot out our miter cuts on our corners, it's going to require a little bit of math, which is hard. And even worse, it involves geometry, which I know we all swore we would never have to use that after high school. But fret not, I have already done it for you. I'm going to zoom in real quick to show you how to use this little protractor right here. Hopefully you can see these numbers. So what we're going to do is, I've already figured out you want to get a 22, maybe a 23 degree angle on this thing, like so. And then you go ahead and put it on the anchor point or the intersection of lines, and you're going to go ahead and draw your first line. Then you're going to switch the other direction, find 22 degrees again, or 23, doesn't matter. And you're going to do this on the corresponding corner. Now, here comes the easy part. Rather than sit there trying to count up how much is 90 degrees off of 22 or 23, we're just going to go ahead and set that at 90. And then, boom, there you go. There's your 90-degree angle. To cut the webbing, I'm going to be using an electric rope cutter in conjunction with a solder smoke absorber. Yeah, it's another piece of equipment that's not normally associated with textile work, but when you cut webbing like this, it gives off some really noxious smoke, and so it's good to have something to help clean the air out. To assemble this whole thing, I'm going to be using my Conso 206 RBL 18 heavy-duty industrial sewing machine with walking foot, and we're going to be using T90 nylon bonded thread. Now to build this thing, I'm going to be using a 18 by 40 inch piece of heavy waxed canvas, a 9-foot length, a 14-inch length, and a 4.5 inch length of 1.5 inch wide polypropylene webbing, and 2 1.5 inch wide steel D-rings. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and mark off 3 inches in from every corner. So it's going to be real simple. Just come in. And then we're going to go ahead and draw a line between those 2 points. This is where we're going to take the shears. And we're going to cut the fabric off, like so. And we'll go ahead and do that for every corner. All right, we've cut off the corners. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and draw a hemline all the way around the perimeter of this piece. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mark in 1 inch. That way you're going to fold your hem, 1/2 inch, and your edge ought to line up with that line that goes all the way around the perimeter. All right, now we're all set up with the line going all the way around the perimeter. The next step is going to be adding a 1/2 inch line just at the corners. It'll be from there and through here and here. What that'll do will allow me to then find our anchor point, to use the protractor to draw out the angles. That way we'll have our reference points for doing our miter cuts. Okay, now we've got our secondary lines drawn in there. And now it's time to put in the angles. Okay, I've marked up all 4 corners with their angles. So the next step, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and cut out our miters, and we're not going to go directly on these lines. These are references. You do not want to cut directly on the line, because what's going to happen is you're then going to have an exposed edge. Even if you fold it in, there's still going to be a little bit showing, and aesthetically it's not really good. So this way you're going to have it's going to be hemmed in all the way around, even at the miters. All right, doing our miter cuts. So what we do is we go ahead and we fold it back on itself right along the corner there. Try to dress it up so it's nice and even. Just want to get to the point right there. You want to check to make sure your lines are even with each other, so they meet there at the same edge, like so. Okay, we're all set, ready to go. And we're going to go ahead and set up our scissors here. Go about 1/8 of an inch shy of that line, and then just cut on down like that. So your corner, when you bring it out, it should look something like that. Okay, our corners are now mitered. The next step is going to be to hem the edges, and now you're going to see why I drew this line in here. It's going to make it so much easier just to line up the outside edge with this line, and that'll give you your 1/2 inch hem, and then you'll fold it in again. Most of this you guys aren't going to see because I'm limited by the equipment that I've got right now. I will, however, zoom in and let you guys watch how I dress in one of the corners here, so you'll be able to follow along on your own. Okay, we've got our first set of folds done. This stuff is real easy to work with. Obviously you can see I'm not using any clips or pins or anything to hold it in place. Because this is a waxed canvas, This is almost like working with aluminum foil, where you just fold it in and press down and it'll stay in place. All right, I'm going to go ahead and fold these in. I'm going to try to push that in there. Then you're going to join up these edges. Again, this is, like I said, it's like aluminum foil, so it's easy to manipulate, bend it around. It doesn't have to be precise, but it is a lot neater than that first model I made, as you can see. So I'm going to bring that in, and you can dress it down till you get it just the way you want it. Might take a couple attempts, as you can see there. Then you can bring in your bone folder or whatever else you're using to press it down. And there you go. There is your mitered corner. And it's going to look even better when you got it stitched down. All right, our piece is now hemmed in all the way around. Now we're going to go ahead and put it through the sewing machine. I'm going to do a back stitch. And now we go forward. All right, so there's our first stitch. Now we're going to do the second one. Okay, it's all sewn up. Okay, now we're ready to start marking this thing up and adding the webbing. So, go ahead and find the center of this thing. Make sure you should have 5 inches on either side of this grid. Go ahead and mark your lines. And what this is going to be the inside edge of the polypropylene webbing that's going to be going the length of this body. For the other webbing attachments, we're going to go 4 3/4 from the end down the middle. Make our mark there. Webbing right there. Center it. That way you can give it a little bracket to work in. All right, so there you go. Those your marks are all set up to start adding the webbing. Okay, I've got this thing marked up the way I want it. Found the center line on both sides, center line on the webbing, and then I did 3/4 inch marks in from both ends. So what's going to happen is this is going to line up on this, and then these two are going to overlap right there. Okay, our webbing is in place, and before we get started here, I'm going to take you over to the dry erase board, show you guys what I'm going to be doing, because I don't think I have the cameras right now to be able to focus in on when I'm sewing. And I'd like you guys to understand how I'm going to put this on. Okay, since I'm no master of AI and I'm still learning how to code, we're going to have to settle with the 11th Celt dry erase board. I want to show you how I'm going to stitch this in. Like I said before, you're probably not going to be able to follow it on the sewing machine. When I watched some of those tutorials, I noticed that when they were stitching the webbing on, they would run their stitch up like this and then go back down the side. What I want to do, or what I am going to do, is I'm going to go ahead and do a reinforcing stitch. Now what I've done is I've already gone ahead and add tick marks at 1.5 inches at all the key points over on the webbing over there on the table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up like this, come over, and then you're going to come over at 45 degrees to that mark. Then you're going to come back straight across, and you're going to come back over here to that corner, come back across, and then go back down this way. This is called a box stitch. Same thing on this side. Except also on the middle where I've got those pieces overlapped, I'm obviously going to start here with my locking stitch, come down this way, and then come back up. I'm going to bypass that, do my box stitch here, come back down, and then when I get here, I've got a mark 1.5 inches in from the end of that webbing, and that's over the end of the underlying piece. So we'll go ahead and we will come over here, boom, boom, boom. There you go. All right, let's put this on the machine. All right, we're done with that part. Now let's add the D-rings. Okay, now doing the attachments. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to situate the short piece of webbing with the 2 D-rings such that it's going to be tucked in underneath on the end, so it'll be nice and clean. And then we're just going to go ahead and place it right in there, and then we'll just go ahead and stitch that in place. I'll be using a box stitch on that, just like I did on these parts right here. And that should be all that it's going to need. Same thing is going to go for the other end. I'll go ahead and tuck this in, maybe about 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. Line it up right there. And that's all it's going to take. All right, so we got our D-rings attached, like so. Those aren't going anywhere. Now, the other side. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and finish up with the handles. You don't have to do this. This is something I like doing. What we're going to do is we're going to find the middle, take a piece of tailor's chalk and mark the middle. This thing is going to be a total 5 inches across. And this is your handle on your strap. Again, this is tailor's chalk. It'll rub off. So then what we're going to do is we're going to fold it. This way you're going to have the curved end of the bite going into your hands or into your fingers on the other side. It just makes it easier to hold on to it. So it's going to look like that, and we'll go ahead and do a bar tack on it. Okay, so we have completed a log sling. Like I said, it's a real simple project. This one has the double locking rings. I've done a couple others with side release buckles. You can do whatever you want. So this way, put your lumber in there and you pull the strap and you are good to go. Just like that. Now, we're not entirely done with that. I'm going to do something a little more. I know you're probably going to ask yourself, what could you possibly do more with a firewood sling? It's pretty simple. Leave it to me. I know how to overcomplicate things. And in the meantime, you guys go ahead and leave notes if you want. I'll look at the feedback. If you didn't quite understand something I put out, let me know. Other than that, I look forward to the next time we work on this thing. Thanks.